All right, y'all. Before we dive in, a quick heads up.
This show is raw, real, and definitely not rated PG.
We're talking about adult themes, sexual content, and the kind of stuff you probably don't want blasting through your speakers at work or around your kids.
So grab some headphones, pour your drink of choice, and get comfy.
Oh, and just so we're clear, we are not licensed therapists, counselors, or sex coaches. Sex coaches,
Sex coaches.
not sex couches.
We're just a couple of people sharing our lives, experiences, and sexy adventures. An ethical non-monogamy. So with that, pull up a chair and enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Monogamy. I'm Adam.
And I'm Pris.
And today we're hanging out with someone who makes polyamory make sense in bite-sized, memeable brilliance. Leanne Yau, the educator behind Polyphilia.
Leanne's British award-winning sex and relationships educator and trainee psychosexual therapist who's been openly non-monogamous since 2016. Their work blends humor, heartfelt honesty, and seriously practical advice for building healthy and non-monogamous relationships.
You've probably seen Polyphilia Blog on Instagram and YouTube. As a matter of fact, I know you guys
Yes.
have because we've talked about it.
Yes.
Massive community, smart resources, and those save this for later explainers that we all screenshot.
Leanne also offers peer support for folks navigating jealousy and metamor dynamics, communication breakdowns, and more. Real tools for real people.
Absolutely. So welcome to Beyond Monogamy, Leanne.
Welcome.
Welcome. Oh, thank you so much. That was also nice.
Yeah, we are like I was saying earlier, I hate to say this, but I am very excited to talk to you because just for the sheer fact that I've been following you for some time now. Our community here in Texas knows about you very well.
Yeah.
And your wonderful memes have spread throughout the groups that we're in on Facebook and on Instagram. And so, yeah, we're just excited to have you here.
I am. I'm
Oh.
very I have a group of women that it's only women. And it's a very large Facebook group, and you popped up in there and I was like, "Oh my goodness. This is amazing. We're going to have her on." So everybody was excited. So yeah, I'm super
Yeah,
this is gonna be fun.
It is fun. Now, I do, before we go any further, because I have questions. But what I'd like to start off with is how you came to the non-monogamous lifestyle. Like, what brought you here? How did you? What's your story?
Yeah, my story, like I said, began in 2016, like around then. I was a teenager. I was kind of 17, 18. And this is going to be a classic as the long distance to non-monogamy pipeline. Like me and my partner, we were at the time kind of going long distance, and then it just became a really practical conversation. It was just like, okay, well, we're not going to be seeing each other for long stretches of time. We don't want to break up. We don't want to cheat on each other, but also we're horny ass teenagers, and there's going to be a lot of needs that we won't be able to meet. And we don't want to resent each other for that when we could just open it up. And at that point in time, neither of us knew that this was a whole thing. Like I think at the time we were both just like, wow, we are such geniuses for coming up with this thing that no one else. I think I called it an open relationship without even realizing that open relationship was the term that someone else, like other people were already using. And yeah, I think it just went from there. I mean, that relationship didn't end up working out, but yeah, I've not really looked back since then. And I started practicing polyamory specifically around, I want to say like 2018, 2019. So yeah, like not too soon after. But yeah, like similar to you guys, I started out in like general non-monogamy open relationships, kind of sexually open, but not necessarily romantically. And then over time, I was just like, yeah, well, what the hell, so yeah, that kind of leads to where I am now. And I've been, as for my page, I've been running that for 5 years now. Yeah, like the 5th anniversary passed quite recently. So yeah, it's been 5 years. It's been a crazy fucking ride.
Yeah, that's definitely big.
I do admire at a very young age that you realize you wanted to not break up with your partner, but kind of like still expand that. That's That's a really good, I mean, like, I didn't even think about that at 18. I was monogamous getting married to a male, so it was,
Too.
I didn't have that thought, you
At
know?
18,
Yeah, at
yeah.
Wow.
18. Yeah, I got married,
I was only
definitely,
14,
yeah, he was only 14 when, but no, I didn't
but we
marry
were not
him.
together. No, no, no. I was
Okay.
I was actually best friends with her little sister. We went to
Yeah,
school
so I'm
together.
4 years older, but yeah, I got married at 18, knew that I was bisexual and that I
Mhm.
only wanted women, but the way I was raised, it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Um, got married at 18, got divorced with him at, I wanna say 24,
Yeah.
got remarried less than a year later.
Oh my god.
Yeah, ended with that one 7 years later, and then
I'm lucky number 3.
yeah, yeah.
But I think
Wow.
this one's gonna stick. I'm pretty
This one's
sure that this
sticking,
one's gonna
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Sometimes we're
But
lucky, as they
But
say.
yeah,
That's
at that
right.
age, I didn't think about, and I cheated on my partner, my first partner. I didn't even think about that, like, opening up a relationship, and that's, so I really admire that. That's really,
well, it takes
Yeah.
a large, amount of emotional
it
intelligence that a
does.
lot of younger people are I think are starting to normalize and figure out, but older
Mhm.
generations like us, we
Yeah.
did not have that. Like, we were
No.
not
Yeah, I
there.
guess we had less of a blueprint for it at the time, but it's
Yeah.
funny that you mentioned that because, I think, like, a lot of people come to terms with kind of the idea of non-monogamy because, like, they might have had, I guess, what is called, like, a wandering eye or whatever, having multiple crushes on people, etcetera, and then being like, "Wait, I don't have to lie about all of this kind of stuff." Whereas I kind of came at it from, like, I wasn't cheating, but what made me realize that I wanted to be non-monogamous was being cheated on.
Mhm,
So prior to that open relationship that I had one monogamous relationship, still to date, my only monogamous relationship. I don't foresee myself adding more to that anytime soon. But in that monogamous relationship, I was cheated on. My boyfriend, he like was secretly sleeping with like a boy like in our year at school, and I had no
mm,
idea for like a couple months. And he did confess to me. I didn't like find out, but obviously I was really upset. But I think I was more upset about the fact that he didn't trust me enough to have a conversation with me about like him wanting to sleep with this guy than the actual act of it. And I think when I made that distinction and then realized that wasn't how other people perceived the whole situation,
mhm.
that was when I was like, oh, well, maybe I think about relationships a little bit differently. And, there's a whole fucking debate in the community about whether it's an orientation or a choice. And I think it can be either. Like for me, it was definitely an orientation though, because, even before I knew that non monogamy was a thing, I was already acting very non monogamously. I was thinking about relationships in a very I guess kind of non-traditional way. And even the one monogamous relationship I had like wasn't very wasn't very monogamous, and not just because of that whole thing, but also because prior to that, like I already knew he was bi. We were like checking out guys together. It was a whole thing.
Mhm.
I didn't even know I was bi then. I knew I was non-monogamous before I knew I was bi. That came like a couple years later. But even then, it was just like, yeah, this is the normal thing that people in monogamous relationships do, right? It's like, no. So yeah, yeah. Like I think, it was always in the cards for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really interesting. It's, yeah, no, that's all I was gonna say. Sorry, my brain went
She's stoned. Sorry. Now you had said that, your you found out you were bi or you kind of realized that you were bi, and then you realized you were non-monogamous, like, shortly thereafter. It
No, it
The
was the
other way
other way
around.
around.
Oh, was it the other way
Yeah,
around?
so
I'm sorry.
monogamous first
N
and
n
then later on bi.
Non-monogamous first, then bi.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to those are 2 very heavy things to unpack for somebody so young. Like, how did it affect you? Like, were you okay? Was it just one of those things where it just fit naturally, or was that something that you really had to sit and have lots of internal conversations about?
It's interesting because I grew up in Hong Kong. So I've
Mhm.
been in the UK for about 10 years now, but like prior to that I grew up in Hong Kong and I didn't move to the UK until I was 16. And Hong Kong's a pretty, I don't know if you've ever been, but it's like a very kind of metropolitan place, like quite international, obviously has a long history like with the British and everything. But ultimately still extremely conservative as a place to grow up in. And like my parents are like extremely conservative,
I
right?
was
Like
gonna ask,
they
yeah.
were each other's first kiss, like my mom's like Catholic. Yeah, it was a whole thing. But I think I was saved by the fact that like in my teenage years, like I was on Tumblr, like every other kind of queer teenage back then. And and I was exposed to a lot of like LGBT media and like, I was reading a lot of fan fiction. And so, like even though I could not kind of talk about that in my day-to-day life, like I could escape online, and like online was the place where, I could be kind of open about exploration and, read about lots of different kinks, like, and some people could argue I probably was exposed to that shit way too young. But but like I think it was a safe haven for me. And like the blog is long defunct, but like before I, started running this Instagram, like when I was like 15, like I had like 20,000 followers on Tumblr.
Wow.
So I was in there. So when it came to kind of exploring my sexuality, relationship orientation, whatever, I think it wasn't as earth-shaking of a realization as I think it would have been if I hadn't been exposed to all of that stuff online.
Mm.
I think I'd given myself like the normalization and the self-acceptance that I needed to, like, kind of come to terms with it. And I never really formally came out to the world. Like I mean, I came out to my family, and that's like a whole thing. But I was at university and I didn't tell people I was bisexual. I just started acting bisexually and I just let people figure it out.
Acting bisexually.
You're like,
Oh my
what
god.
does that mean?
You have just
There'd be
coined
big
a new term.
parties. There'd be big parties, and I'd be like, okay, I've got 6 friends with benefits. I'm gonna invite all of them to this party. I'm gonna make
Yeah.
all of them. And it's gonna be a nice time. And if people are confused, if people judge, that's their business. It's not my problem.
I love that.
That's their problem. That's not your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And my parents like were scandalized. They are still scandalized, but like I think they've quieted down a little bit now that I've managed to navigate a career like with this whole thing. And
Yeah.
especially now that I'm training to be a therapist, that's like, oh yes, okay, that's something we can tell,
We could
independent
justify
family.
it.
That's a yeah. That's a professional sounding career that we
There
can
you
tell
go.
other people about, rather than just someone who somehow makes money from videos on the internet, which I think is just something they just fundamentally don't understand.
Yeah.
Um, the context for this as well is that, I was supposed to go into a career of corporate law. Like
Mm.
Oh, wow.
I studied law at Oxford University, it was a whole thing. And I did finish my degree, but like while I was still at university, like I started like running my page and things like that, and then just took off in a whole other direction. I was like, you know what? Fuck corporate law. That. Which yeah, my parents are very upset about, but I think they've calmed down now. So
I think
yeah,
they're doing
that's a
well,
very long
so
answer.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's great that you get to do what you love. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah,
it's not work if you're doing what you love. Uh,
exactly. Yeah.
but you lead into something
I
really
was gonna
great there because it polyphilia, I
yeah.
mean, how did you even get to that point where you started that? Like, where did it come from?
Where it
Where did
stopped
this
being fun and it was actually now you're just
Yeah,
doing
and then all of a sudden it takes off, like, how was this thing born, really?
I mean, it was led by my audience really, because I started my page as like so I was doing a master's in law at that point in time, and it was boring as shit. And I started my page in like November 2020 because I was just like, please, like save me from this hell. And so it was an outlet for me to just be like silly and make memes, and and then yeah, and then like the memes took off, and I was like, okay, I guess this is what the people want. I'll continue doing that. I didn't go into it thinking I'm going to make a career out of this, right? I was like, I'm going to do this on the side and have some fun, and I guess just like slave away at this job that I'm not having fun at. And I guess basically over time, like people started being like, we really want to hear kind of more educational stuff from you. We want to see kind of slightly more long form stuff. Like I want to hear more about your story and kind of what tips you've got and things like that. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll start doing a bit more of that. And then people were like, hey, I'd really love to like pick your brain. I'd really like to kind of talk to you personally. Do you offer that as a service? And I was like, I guess I could. I can do that. And then so, and then people were like, oh, like we'd love more exclusive content. Like, please start a Patreon. So I did that, So it's all been led by my audience,
Yeah.
That's
Like I
awesome.
just went where like people were asking. I was like, yeah, I could probably do that. So and now it's a whole thing. And now it's honestly it's due to my audience that I had this massive career change, right? Because like not just like all the opportunities I've gotten to like do workshops and speak at festivals and be interviewed on the radio and like and speak and just yeah talk to all kinds of amazing people, but also to start training as a therapist, because I realized that I enjoyed talking to people and, really kind of sharing that like kind of intimacy with people and like hearing their stories, hearing their perspectives, trying to kind of support them, etc., holding that space for them, being that refuge, like if
Yeah.
they didn't really have any people in their life who like got it, right? That made me go like, okay, like maybe this is my calling, maybe I should start taking this more seriously. So no, basically it was a complete accident. And yeah, I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd
Yeah.
be able to, do like what I'm doing now. And obviously, like, I think it was also the right place, the right time.
Yeah.
Because I started my page in 2020, in 2021, 2022, like everyone and their mother wanted to open their relationship post lockdown
Right. Right.
for a variety of reasons. It was just
Yeah.
it was just the zeitgeist, and and my page was like growing like astronomically fast. I couldn't believe it. So I got, I mean, I worked hard. I won't deny that, but I think I also got really lucky. I think if I'd started doing what I was doing then, like now, I don't think it would have taken off like anywhere like near as much. And yeah, I mean, there are lots of other people doing what I'm doing now. Whereas like back in 2020, I think there were like maybe like four of us, and
Mhm.
maybe only one of us. Like in terms of social media, obviously, there plenty of educators existed before then on like blogs and stuff. But like in terms of the social media wave, like I was the only one who was kind of taking it seriously in terms
Yeah.
of
Right.
posting every day and stuff like that. So, but all that's changed now, which is great. Now I have like something akin to colleagues, which is really nice.
Yeah, yeah, and you've inspired a lot of people to jump into this sort of thing, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Your memes alone are educational. I mean,
Mhm.
they get passed around like swinger and poly trading cards, and which I think is incredible because as a kid, I used to collect Marvel
I'm all,
cards
you should make
and
little cards
baseball
now.
cards,
Oh my
and
god.
these things, I mean, they seriously get people share them on their different Facebooks, and it's like, "Here, look at this. Here, you're going through a hard time, check this out." You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so it's really it's not just what you know, but it's how you're framing it for everybody that's
Yeah.
really making a difference. I do gotta ask because from a content creator's perspective, I know how exhausting it is. I know how,
Yeah.
the gray zones where you can't think of what next. Is that ever been anything of a struggle for you, or is it been just something that's come naturally? You always seem to have something in your arsenal.
I do have like an ideas folder that I always kind of turn to if I, can't think of what I want to make on a specific day. But honestly, I just kind of jump on trends. Like social media moves at a million miles an hour. And I think that's
Mhm.
is exciting about it. It is exhausting sometimes, but also exciting. And yeah, like I think, I mean, I've always been a creative person.
Mhm.
So, like, I mean, I think it comes with like the ADHD, like my mind is just all over the place. And so, yeah, like I'll just, see something, I'll think of something, I'll do it like right then and there. My work schedule is extremely chaotic like because
Yeah,
of that.
yeah,
So no, I guess I don't really struggle with it that much. And I think it also helps that a lot of the content I make is quite short form. So
Mm.
the instant gratification, like it is like a real motivator. If you're asking me to write like a long-term project, like absolutely not.
yeah.
Like like fun fact, I actually signed a book deal back in 2021, but I terminated the contract last year because it took me 4 years to write like, I don't know, 2,000 words. And I was just like, this is just depressing. Like I'm not and, yeah, I just, I really I think social media works quite well for me, it's kind of
Yeah,
what I
Yeah.
grew up with, like, it's what I'm familiar with, it's like, I like the audience interaction, it just works much better for me, than just kind of doing my own thing and slaving away at, like, a project for years and years. I still hope to write a book someday, but that's, like, way down the line.
Yeah.
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 Well, with your busy schedule and everything that you're doing, do you have time to have other relationships, or is it
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah? That's
Yeah,
good.
I mean, like, my job is chaotic, but it's also very flexible. I mean, I can work from
Mm.
anywhere, I can work from my phone,
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
and so, I kind of work 24/7, but throughout the day, I'm also kind of doing other stuff. I kind of jump between different tasks. It really depends on kind of my motivation on any given day. I know that's not how some content creators do it. Some people like block out specific kind of work schedules for themselves. I tried that, doesn't work for my brain. My brain just goes where it wants to go, So I wake up and I'm like, what do I feel called to do today? And I eventually just end up procrastinating on enough things that I get everything done. Because I always have at least three things that I could be doing. And like I am always avoiding something by doing something else. And it just keeps swapping around. And so yeah, it works for me. I end up being quite productive. But in terms of my kind of how I fit kind of dating and relationships around that, I mean, I can work around other people's schedules because
Mhm.
I decide my hours. So yeah, like it hasn't really been an issue for me. Like if someone's working a 9 to 5, I'm like, cool, let's kind of work around that. If someone's working night shifts, that's fine. If someone's
Yeah.
also self-employed like me, even better. We can hang out in the daytime, we can do whatever. So yeah, like it's a real blessing, because I can imagine like if I was working a 9 to 5 and like all my partners were also working 9 to 5s and we all had to share the same like weekends and evenings, it'd be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Like,
That would be
um,
oh,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
yeah. So, like, people manage it, but it's just having that flexibility really like counts for so much. And it all feels like I can always learn from like the relationships that I'm in and the polycules I'm in and the people like around me. I always
Yeah.
have so many interesting conversations that like, yeah, like work and play and life, they all blend together for me. And I quite like it that way.
Yeah.
I will say when we started our podcast, I went through all our topics fairly quickly in the first, well, because we drop 2 episodes a week. So we have an hour-long episode on Sundays and a 30-minute episode on Wednesdays.
Mhm.
And so I ran through these topics and I sat back after a few weeks and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Mm,
And by this time, things were picking up for us and we were getting invited to a lot more stuff and we
mm,
were in more situations and just being around people
Things just pop
naturally
up.
started bringing things
Mhm.
up.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
exactly.
now I don't really struggle so much, and somebody was, we just did a show with another podcaster, and they said, "You guys drop 2 episodes a week, I don't know how you do it, like, how are you staying fresh?" And I'm like, It's literally what's around us, it's the
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
that we're talking to,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
comes
No, I
uh,
relate to that so much. It's like, I'm continually inspired by the people around me, and I'm very grateful to the people around me that they let me just yap about the bullshit that we each talk
yeah.
about. Because, like, yeah, I have to be very careful with the people that I choose to, spend my time with because some of them are like they can be quite concerned for their privacy,
Right, right,
and like others, like even if they're anonymized and stuff like that, might feel kind of some type of way, like about me, essentially monetizing my personal life, because let's be real, that is what I'm doing.
yeah.
Exactly.
Um, so, it's yeah, so I'm so grateful to people who like let me do that. And some of them are even like, "Oh, like, let's talk about this and maybe like you can write like you can make a meme about it or something like that and I can like tell my friends." Like
That's awesome.
so nice.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, being that you have a lot of people around you and stuff like that, what are the 3 myths that you see the most
Myths about
about poly?
Or
polyamory.
yeah,
Yeah.
or non-monogamy, period.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many. I think, like, there's also an age thing as well. Like, I think because I started non-monogamy relatively young,
Mhm.
and, in my early 20s, I definitely got a lot of like, "Oh, well, you're still young, you're messing around, you don't know what true love is like yet, and, you'll find someone who will, like, kind of radically change your perspective on love and marriage." And I'm like, okay. Sounds fake, but okay. And as I'm getting, I guess, closer to my I mean, I'm still young, but, like, I'm 27, but, like, as I'm getting closer to my 30s, I'm getting more people kind of shifting towards, like, "Wait, like, why aren't you doing the things that most people would be doing at your age in terms of, like, thinking about settling down in the traditional way and all of that, like, you're
Mm.
still doing this thing that we totally thought would be a phase, like, 10 years ago." So yeah, I think probably the biggest thing is just the temporary nature of it, like, and I think also, like, a projection of immaturity,
Mm,
of, like,
mhm.
a lack of responsibility, like, around, like, a self-centeredness, and yeah, just, like, kind of temporary nature, like, of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
never
it's
thought
not that
about
big.
that, but
Yeah, I don't that was very interesting. Yeah, I've
that's a
never thought
really
about
great way to
that.
frame it because I never would have thought about that, but you're absolutely right. We've had that come up several different times where
Mhm.
people have framed it in that way. And it's like, "Oh, well, this is not gonna last." Like, this is it's a burnout phase. You guys are gonna come back to the dark side at some point, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and it's like it's not even like even with like little relationship shifts as well. Like obviously there was like being non-monogamous and doing all of that, and but like a couple months ago, and I talked about this on my Patreon in detail. Me and my partner of 3.5 years, we'd been living together for like 2 years. Out of that time, we decided to go long distance, mainly because, job market being what it is. He works in a very niche field. And so he had to like look outside of where we live for like a job in his field. And so he ended up moving somewhere that's about like a 2-hour train journey away. And that meant, no longer being nesting partners
Uh,
and, kind of living separately and, visiting each other on a regular basis kind of thing. And I think, like, my family were supportive, but also confused, and I think my mom, like, was really anxious about, like, this being, like, the beginning of the end. And I was like, "What do you think we've been" like, like, our relationship is so flexible,
yeah.
Like, it's extremely like, that's a really nice thing about non-monogamy, it's so flexible and accommodating for all kinds of different changes. Which is not to say, like, any change can be survived or anything like that, but, like, this isn't, like, not a big deal in the grand scheme of things.
Mhm.
Um, and 4 months later, things are going stronger, I think, I would argue, actually, because, we each have our own space. Like, my partner's more of an introvert, so, like, now he's, like, fully recharged, like, when we actually hang out. Whereas before, like, I think he'd just be, like, tolerating my, like, just ADHD rambles. But, like, but yeah, even kind of little changes like that, people would be like, "Oh, this isn't gonna last," because you're not following this traditional path, and, why would you do all that and build such a, quote unquote serious relationship and then go backwards, right?
Yeah.
By like not living together anymore. And we're like, well, I mean, this is a new this isn't even like a step forward or backward. It's just like this is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
what am I gonna do? Like have him be unemployed, like, and not feeling like a sense of purpose like in my home? Like, no, that would suck, So yeah, but I think basically what I'm trying to say is like any departure from the, not just monogamy, but also just the general relationship escalator, like really freaks people out. Like I think
Mhm.
even if me and my partner had been in a monogamous relationship, like people would still be freaking out at this decision.
Yeah,
Um,
Wow.
that is true.
Now, Leanne, I there's a topic that I've been wanting to talk to you about because I love your insight on things. It's big for me. Jealousy. Uh,
mm,
for me, jealousy, I think, is villainized oftentimes. The
Mhm.
the term
yeah,
is got a very, very negative connotation.
yeah,
People feel like they cannot have jealousy, like, especially when
mm,
we became poly, that was thrown around a lot where it's like, "Oh gosh, you feel jealous? You should not be feeling jealous. You
mm,
can't be in this."
yeah, and you're
If
yeah,
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 and, I've never agreed with that, and I feel like jealousy is actually a very it's a common feeling, and you just
And
kinda gotta know how to tame it. You gotta know how to cope with it. You gotta know how to navigate through it.
yeah.
And so that's always been my belief. I wanna say I saw something that you had posted once that kind of echoed that, and so I was really curious, what are your thoughts about
Mhm.
jealousy?
I've written so much stuff about jealousy over the years. Like, I'm sure if you searched on my Twitter, like Poly Philia Blog jealousy, there'll be like, I don't know, like 50 tweets about it. But yes, I agree with you. And I think that also, like, firstly, jealousy can be so many different things. So it's like, just being like jealousy is bad overall is just like, that's unhelpful and also like a wild generalization. I think possessiveness is bad, which obviously absolutely can be a component of jealousy. But like
Mhm.
a lot of the time, people are jealous for reasons that have nothing to do with possessiveness. And I think people don't talk about that enough. I think also, if you demonize jealousy, it means people are less likely to talk about it. And I think that's worse. I think, so much like just like mental health conditions and, trauma and whatever, like comes from people like repressing shit, right? And like
Right.
not being able to feel like authentic in themselves. And so like what are we doing in a community that is about like openness and authenticity and living your best life or whatever? Being like, "Oh, but these bad things are something that you should keep inside and you can never show it to the world, and if you show it to the world, then you're a bad person." We're just replicating the same bullshit.
Mhm.
So like I've been, like, on the receiving end of someone who was had, like, maybe was expressing their jealousy in a more toxic way than they should have, and that's scary, and I think, like, a lot of people have experienced that. But ultimately, it's like that person still needs like a space to talk things through and to like bring it out into the light so they can interrogate it and, think about why they're feeling that way and think about where it comes from or what's causing it or whatever. And, sometimes I think it's a real struggle for polyamorous people to hold space for a jealous partner because I think it makes them feel shame.
Mm,
Because if your partner's jealous, then you're like, "Oh shit, I'm doing something that is hurting my partner and that makes me feel bad." And so instead of dealing with that, I'm going to tell them to, shut the hell up so that I don't feel bad.
right.
Mhm.
And that's really selfish. And I know this because I used to act that way. Like I've been someone who, like in my first ever like open relationship, like the one that didn't work out, like there are many reasons why it didn't work out, but like one of the reasons was like I was less jealous than my partner and I didn't know how the fuck to handle it because like I was like, "Oh yeah, you're sleeping with other people, we're having a nice time. I don't like yeah, like I'm having a nice time. I'm not bothered by this at all."
Yeah.
But like the moment I slept with someone else, my partner like lost his goddamn mind. And I was just like and I was, I cringe kind of looking back, but I was like so unempathetic because, I was kind of more concerned with like, well, fair is fair, like you slept with other people. Now I get to do that as well. Like, obviously, not recognizing that, yeah, on paper, sure, that's the deal. But like in reality, like, like being okay with, sleeping with multiple people is very different from like letting your partner or like, being okay with your partner kind of doing the same. And that's
Mhm.
like a whole emotional process that like doesn't just click overnight for some people. And so yeah, I think I was really kind of focused on myself and focused on like the fairness of the situation as opposed to going like, whoa, like what's going on here? Like what kind of fears are coming up? Acknowledging that we had different upbringings and, my partner was much more insecurely attached than I was. And so obviously it would affect him in a very different way. And as I progress further on my therapy training as well, like it's kind of like, yeah, like none of this is one size fits all. Like over the years, I counted recently, like I've spoken to over like 1,000 clients over the years. And every single time a jealousy related situation comes up, which I would say is about maybe like a third of my clients, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's always for a different reason. Like, there are some overall themes and the kind of but the nuances of it are always really different. And like the stories behind it are very different. Being like jealousy bad and you're a bad person is just like, it is shutting off like a wealth of conversation that we could be having.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that Frankenstein jealousy bad, that whole and that's the way but and I don't know if you were raised this way, but that's the way we were raised,
Yeah.
we were raised in very, very common Hispanic households,
Yeah.
and
Mm,
that was just our upbringing was, you stay in an unhappy marriage and you cheat on each other, and that's just the way it's done, and we don't
yeah.
talk about it.
And jealousy. So, like,
And we're jealous,
yeah, he is not a very jealous person. I am a very I'm not very, I'm a jealous person, and it's for different reasons. Now that I'm older, I'm 47, so now that I'm
Mhm,
older, I can actually process and be like, "Okay, why am I jealous?
mhm,
What's making me become jealous? What is, what is he saying? What is he doing? Or what is the other person saying to him?" And it was very hard because I was like, "How could you not be jealous? Do you not love me? Like, you're never jealous."
mhm.
And it
Yeah,
it
that's
was
another
something
thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it was
it's like
something completely
I
different
didn't
from
feel
my end.
val like, I felt like, "Oh, he didn't love me. He doesn't love me enough because he's not
Mm,
jealous." Like, he's okay if someone just, like, sleeps with me or whatever. He just and so I had
mhm,
to process that
mhm,
for many years,
mm,
and I always say it, this guy has put in a lot of work in that department. So, I am where I am because I follow people like you are yeah, I mean, you're younger, but your maturity level is probably where I'm at now, and it took me this many years to get to
yeah,
where,
I
to
highly doubt that, but
well, I mean, like, at least what you're talking about, and the way you break it down, it's easy for me to understand, and
oh, yeah, I
I
appreciate that.
ADHD and all that stuff, and you kinda break it down in a very simple way that really helps, I
Yeah.
think, a lot of people because
Yeah.
of the way you present it.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. I do try and make my content as accessible because like the worst thing is when like people use overly complicated language and it's like you're not trying to educate, you're just trying to sound smart and have other
Exactly.
people be like, "Wow, you sound like a smart, educated person. I don't understand what the fuck you're saying," you know? Like and you know, and I think that's where my legal training came in handy here because, you know, like all I did
Mm,
at Oxford was present arguments in as succinct and concise way as possible.
yeah.
You know, I'm not practicing law like at all, but the training definitely helped in kind of how I
Yeah.
write my content. So,
Did you say
yeah, I'm happy
Oxford?
to hear that.
Yeah.
And that's why your parents are mad at you.
Oh,
Yeah,
the mom just came out in
The
her.
mom.
yeah, yeah, like Oxford law to this. Can you imagine?
I mean,
Oh,
good
my training is
great for
confirmed.
great for
We
you.
have 5 kids and 2 of them are college age,
Yeah.
and so that's
Yeah.
the mom just came out and said
Sorry.
that.
Yeah, you can imagine the
I
disappointment.
mean, I
You can imagine. She can imagine. That's what just happened. She just imagined it.
I
Oh
mean,
my
good
goodness.
for you.
I love you so much.
You are you I don't know you personally, but you're very intelligent. And so
Huh.
as a mom, I'm proud of you. So
Thank you. That means a
so good
lot.
for
Huh.
you.
You know, you really are, you're doing amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're on a freight train level, you know, you're just going through, and you're in a great time right now because I feel like non-monogamy is really becoming more mainstream.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
it's becoming more acceptable. I think,
Yeah. Even the
CNN
There you go.
you know, I think CNN did a story not too long ago about polyamory is becoming more accepted, you know, amongst the young kids, they said, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, "Man, if you only knew, you know,
I mean, yeah,
if you
no,
only
that's
knew."
the amazing part because even people like our ages are like still learning from like the
Yeah.
younger generation, like your ages, right? It's like, wow, they really got their shit down.
Yeah, and you know what's really cool is because we're both in our 40s, I'm 43,
Yeah.
she's 47, and we have kids who are in their teens. Our youngest are 14, and then we've got 18, 19, and 25. Like, we've got
Yeah.
5 kids total.
Yeah.
And we were always worried that as we gain popularity and that sort of thing, it would come back to their friends or somebody would find us on social media and it would spread in school and they would get bullied or whatever. It's
Mm,
not the case at all. As a matter
Mm-mm.
of fact, the friends found out and they all think it's really cool because
mm,
everybody knows about non-monogamy. And they
yeah.
think that it's not only cool that we're non-monogamous, but that it's cool that we have a podcast that's doing successful,
Mm,
talking about it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
these are high school kids, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Our college age kids completely understand non-monogamy, and our daughter, our youngest daughter, is so supportive of it that she actually is gonna be a guest on the show
Yeah.
sometime next
Oh,
month,
that's
and
cute.
because she wants to talk about, you know, how it is having parents who are non-monogamous and that sort of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah, that's
from
that
her
very much a
perspective.
voice, you know, that yeah, very valuable voice to add to the conversation,
Yeah,
sure, because
yeah,
there is
and
They
press
don't
about
practice
consent,
they don't
but
practice it, but
they don't practice it, but they do
yeah,
know that they have the option,
we have
they
the
do
option.
know, and
Mhm.
they know
Exactly.
that it's an abled body position of ours to do what we do. I mean, we have a great
Mhm.
relationship. They know they've called us relationship goals, and
Oh,
which is cool to hear from your kids.
Yeah.
that is
But
really
then
good.
also they know that we're doing this as non-monogamous, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh,
Also,
so
having
it's
5 kids, like,
Ugh.
yeah,
you know,
yeah. No,
Oh, you
we
have no
we're
idea.
tired, Leanne. We're tired.
No,
We're just tired.
they're really good kids, so
They are.
they did not turn out I was a very bad teenager,
I
very rebellious.
I was a little bit of a troublemaker.
Yeah, and so our kids, thank goodness, even though we're a blended family, so I
Mhm,
came with 2, he came with 3, we've
mhm.
raised the little ones since they were infants together,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it's nice because they are good kids,
Aw.
It's an open communication
open
household.
communication, yeah,
They feel safe enough to come and talk to us about anything that
yeah,
comes up,
Mm,
but
which
it is
has
exhausting.
it's mentally exhausting,
It is.
because, you know, as parents, we have to be the guiding rock for our kids, to so to speak, but at the
yeah,
Yeah,
of
same
course.
time, you don't wanna overstep, and we were
Yeah.
helicopter parents for several years. I mean,
yeah,
I homeschooled them for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, I'm like, I we had a big hand in in who they're becoming.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But now they're older and it brings on a whole 'nother set of challenges because it's like now we have to step back
Yeah.
Mhm.
and we have to let them, we'll give them advice, but we have to let them make their own mistakes. And
Yeah.
that's the
Mhm.
hardest thing to
Yeah.
to watch
Yeah.
Especially
do.
relationship advice. Like
Yeah.
I can't tell my I mean, I always laugh at the story that I was in school, but I always had different boyfriends in different high schools. Like that's just the way I was. And for me it was just cheating, like, oh, oops, one saw me at the mall with the other one and all right, that one's gonna break up. And so I always tell them that story. And I was like, even in kindergarten, I had two boyfriends. I was
Mhm.
sitting there and I had one on one side and one on the other side watching whatever cartoon was on. And
Aw.
I've always been that way, but it was always a bad thing,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, you always like you were always told like that was
yeah,
not a good thing.
yeah, no. We
I
did
think
It's
try the
especially as a woman as well, I
oh
imagine
god,
that.
the shame that
Yeah,
comes behind it. It's
yeah,
a you're a
yeah, yeah.
slut, you're a whore, and it's like, wow, okay, well then I guess this is not a good thing. Sorry, guys.
Mhm.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
no, it is, it's very, very cool the age that you are and the age that we are, and it's like, wow, we can I see your point,
Mhm.
and it's like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. I think just it doesn't have to be an age difference. I'm just saying, like, it's just an
It's a
education
it's a
type of
new way
thing.
of
A
thinking.
new way of thinking. There
Yeah.
you go.
It's a new
Yeah.
way of thinking because especially for us, the way we grew up, there was a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that we had to unlearn
Mm,
in
yeah,
order to enjoy this
Yeah.
this whole lifestyle of non-monogamy.
Because I
Um,
could not come out as bi when I was that age. So
yeah.
at all. I love that.
yeah. Now I'm curious about so I've heard this and I don't really know how I feel about it, but I've heard this opinion before about boundaries,
Mhm.
where a person with a lot of boundaries is equal to tons of insecurities.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I don't know if you've heard that before. I've seen it thrown around before. And
I've heard versions of that.
yeah, and I'm just I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Okay. I think it's less about the number of boundaries, I think it's more about how the boundaries are enforced.
Uh,
Because I think there are how do I put this? I think there are, like, different types of boundaries, I guess. Like, there are some that are like, "Okay, this is an absolute deal breaker, I won't be around for this." And then there's some boundaries that are like, this is, like, not the comfiest situation for me, but, like, I can tolerate it, or I can tolerate it for a certain period of time, and then I'm out. And then there are boundaries that are like, well, this is kind of dependent on the person or dependent on the situation. Like, with these conditions met, then I can do it. If not, then no. Yeah, like, I think boundaries are necessary. I think boundaries are necessary to have like a functional, kind of healthy life and to relate well with other people. I don't think having a lot of boundaries is a bad thing, but I think having really overly strict boundaries is a bad thing.
Mm.
Because, like,
yeah.
if you're like, "You've disrespected my boundary and I'm gonna cut you off, because and I'm not gonna talk to you on whatever," like, then it's like, "Okay, well, sure, I can see how that's, a way of, like, protecting yourself," but then it also means that you don't take as many risks and therefore open yourself up to less kind of opportunity for connection. So I think it's like it's a kind of two-way thing. So but I also think that if you have too few boundaries, like, sure, you kind of really show up in a very vulnerable way for a lot of people, but you also run the risk of getting taken advantage of, or like people just kind of stepping all over you, you being a people pleaser, not like advocating for yourself. So, yeah, as for the piece around like insecurity, I'm not really seeing the relation there. Because, surely if you were an insecure person, and you really wanted to be loved, you didn't want to be abandoned, you could also go the other way and say like, well, then I can't have boundaries because if I have boundaries, then people will leave me, and then that'll contribute to even further insecurity. So I don't. I think you can go either way with that. Like there are people with a lot of insecurities who have no boundaries, and then you can also have people who are very secure who have a lot of boundaries and kind of hold them very confidently.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that's actually a really great way of putting it because I saw that and I really didn't know how I felt about that. I was like, I don't really agree with it, but there's almost a little bit of truth to it when you say it the way that you said it. If
Mhm.
it's how they, how strong of a boundary it is, like what exactly is it? What I guess it really depends. Yeah.
Mhm. It
Mhm.
depends on the person, depends on the context, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, and yeah, like we're not robots, right? Like we might have these rules and values for ourselves, but like I think most people don't apply them in every single instance strictly to like every single person, you know? Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
people bend and compromise sometimes, and I think that's okay as long as you don't do it too much and end up
Yeah.
losing yourself in the process.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think there's a relation between kind of the amount of boundaries you have and the amount of security that you have. And
Yeah.
also what even do people mean when they say secure, you know? Like there's
Yeah.
kind of so many different directions we can go with that. And like boundaries is like, okay, are we talking boundaries in terms of like deal breakers in relationships? Are we talking boundaries in terms of like how you want to be kind of treated by family? Are we talking boundaries in terms of like the types of things that you're looking for in a new partner? You know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's such a broad statement. Like, and that's the thing about the internet. It's like people will throw out these massive broad statements just to like get people mad and
Yeah.
comment on
Yeah,
them.
and get
Yeah.
clicks. Yeah.
So as a creator, do you have anything that you don't like, what's off limits or what's your boundary to share online?
Yeah, because we're as podcasters, for us, I mean,
Mhm.
our entire life is out on
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
show,
Yeah.
and it's not
Yeah.
just us talking to people. This is our actual relationship. This is what we go
Mm.
through daily.
Yeah.
So everything that we put into this show, this is our baby,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so it's our 100% personal life, and we
Mhm.
don't really hold back. And so in as a content creator whose personal life is relatively out, is
Mhm.
there a line that you just go, okay, that's staying over here?
Yeah, I have built more professional boundaries over the years.
Oh,
I
that's
think,
good.
like, when I started, I was just, like, having a silly goofy time and just posting whatever, it was like my personal diary, right? Like, I was posting whatever. But I think as my audience grew, I think I had a responsibility to the people around me to not just be talking shit, like, on the internet, especially if I was, like, going through a rough time with a partner or, there was, like, a breakup in the polycule or whatever, I had to be sensitive to that because, like, people knew me and, like, most of my audience are in the US with people who will, like, never meet the partners that I engage with, like, in real life. But there's still plenty of people in the UK who do know me. And so,
Mhm.
like, if not for myself, like, I had to be cautious, like, about the people I was, like, involving myself with. So, yeah, like, I think I very rarely talk about my personal life on my public
Mhm.
page anymore. I haven't done for years. But on my Patreon, that's kind of where I talk a little bit more about my personal life. And even then now, like there's still a bit of like a filter. Like it used to be like, here's what's happening in the next episode of the Leanne show. And now like on my Patreon, it's like this thing happened in my life recently and it's inspired me to talk about this topic more generally. And here's kind of some information that can help you with that. Like for example, like I had kind of two partners meet each other for the first time, so I made a video about like how to like navigate meeting your metamor or being the person introducing kind of two
Mm.
partners to each other. And that was like a general thing, but like inspired by something that had actually happened in my life, right? Whereas before I'd just be like, "Oh my god, this has been going on, that's been going on. Yesterday I went to this place, today I could," and it was just like, sure, I mean that's tea, but
Yeah.
am I providing value to my audience in the same way, And yeah, so I think my approach has radically changed over the years. Like I still talk about my personal life on Patreon. One of my most popular posts this year was like basically a tell about like a gangbang that I organized for myself back like in the summer.
Yes.
And I had so many new signups. I was just like, wow, really sold. I'm not mad about it. Yeah. Like, but like it was really funny that was just my top performing post of the year. And I was like, I hope you guys stick around for the educational content as well. And not
That's
just,
awesome.
hearing
There's
about me
more.
getting, yeah, like, yeah. But, I'm very open about that kind of stuff as well because people don't talk about sex. And I can't talk about sex on Instagram because they
Oh,
ban my
forget
page.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so, like Patreon's where all like the like less safer work stuff goes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So like yes and no, like I
Yeah.
have boundaries, but I probably have kind of like less than the average person. like I'll be like going into intricacies of like, wow, here are the things that they don't tell you in porn about what it's like to get triple penetrated, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it'll be
Yeah.
like you won't get that information anywhere else. You know. So yeah, subscribe to my Patreon, people.
Yes.
Sorry.
Oh my God. That was awesome. I love that. Dude. So, Leanne, thank you very
Mhm.
much. Your work makes complicated stuff feel doable, and your humor keeps people at the table long enough to learn.
Oh.
If you're not already following, hit up Polyphilia Blog and Polyphilia YouTube channel. We've dropped all the links and her Patreon in our show notes, plus info on Leanne's peer support offerings if you want one-on-one help.
And for all things Beyond Monogamy episodes, upcoming events, and our Beyond Monogamy confessional, where you can anonymously share wild stories or questions, head to beyond-monogamy.com.
We also stream every Thursday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central on fullswapradio.com. Come hang out with us there too.
And if this conversation has helped you, the most impactful thing that you can do is follow, subscribe, leave a quick review, and share this episode with one person who needs it. I guarantee you, you know more than one. It's free, it takes 30 seconds, and it seriously helps more open minded folks find the show. With that, thanks for listening, everyone. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.